So the company that Donald Trump is attempting to use to post a $175 million bond in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case had to make a filing before the New York court to justify that it has the capacity to serve as a surety after there has been substantial doubts raised about their ability to even function as a valid surety and whether they even have sufficient capital to post a bond on behalf of Donald Trump after he was hit with that massive $464 million verdict. Although you'll recall the appellate division in New York reduced the bond obligation to only $175 million. Donald Trump was given 10 extra days to find a surety or post the bond himself. He went to his friend Don Hankey, who runs this company called Knight Specialty Insurance Company, but it did not seem that Knight Specialty Insurance Company had sufficient capital in its reserves to function as a valid surety in the state of New York. So the New York Attorney General called them out. Justice Engoron set a hearing for next week. The parties had to file briefs. Knight Specialty Insurance filed this brief. And the biggest red flag is that the signature page, and I'm not making this up, the signature page filed by Knight Specialty Insurance was actually the signature page for the surety Chubb Insurance in the E. Jean Carroll case. You heard that right. Let me repeat it again. In the Knight Specialty Insurance filing that was made last night on April 15, 2024, you can see the date above. That's the timestamp of the filing. The signature page is not of Knight Specialty Insurance Company. It's the signature page. If you look at the very bottom of here for the verification and the attestation, you'll see it right here. It says Federal Insurance Company. It says, I hereby certify that I am the duly elected and qualified trustee of the irrevocable trust that entered into the foregoing collateral account pledge and security agreement with Federal Insurance Company. That's Chubb. That's the E. Jean Carroll case. And you see Don Jr. signed it. Jason Miller was a witness, and Don Jr. signed it again on the bottom. But they're using the wrong page right there. And if you look at the date, even though the timestamp on this filing is April 15, 2024, it's the surety that they posted on March 20th, 2024 apparently in the other matter. So that's red flag number one. Now let's take a look at the declaration that was filed by Knight Specialty Insurance Company in this filing. And let's point out all of the other red flags here that I'm sure the New York Attorney General's office is going to raise at the hearing next week. This is what it says. The $175 million bond at issue here is adequately secured. This is a declaration by a representative of Knight Specialty Insurance Company. KSIC, that's Knight Specialty Insurance Company, has entered into a collateral account pledge and security agreement with the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust. A copy of the collateral account pledge and security agreement is annexed hereto as Exhibit E. Pursuant to the account pledge agreement, the DJT Trust granted KSIC a security interest in a Schwab brokerage account in which the DJT Trust is obligated to maintain no less than $175 million in cash or cash equivalents at all times. Notice the or there doing a lot of work. And so they're saying that Donald Trump set up this Schwab account, this Charles Schwab account that has cash or cash equivalents totaling $175 million. It goes on to say, and the issue is or cash equivalents. The account pledge agreement also contains a true-up provision which requires DJT Trust to deposit additional collateral into the account in the event the balance falls below the required minimum. That should also let you know right there that the or cash equivalents portion, I mean, are they talking about stock? Are they talking about DJT media stock that's currently crashing right now every single day? Is that what they're saying is or cash equivalent, so that Trump has to put more stock in that Schwab account if it dips below 175? And is that what's happening right here? Is it other non-cash equivalents? What is that? And if Donald Trump has $175 million sitting in a Schwab account, then why wouldn't Donald Trump just pledge the bond on his own? Why wouldn't he just post his own? Why is he going to a surety to take $175 million, put it in a Schwab account, and then pay a fee for a surety to post it on his behalf if he has the money? One of the other questions that I have is the money in the Schwab account pledged as collateral for something else, some other debt? And is that why Donald Trump can't turn this into liquid money, or turn it into liquidity? Goes on to say, as of Friday, April 5th, 2024, the account contains $175,304,075.95 in cash. A copy of the account statement is annexed hereto as Exhibit F. One of the things I'm curious about too is, all of a sudden, as of April 5th, 2024, what do you know? This Schwab account magically gets the magic number of $175 million, which just so happens to be the number that the appellate division reduced the bond obligation to. And as I look at that paragraph also too, one of the things that I want to know is, it says as of April 5th, 2024, the account contains $175 million. Any transfer of assets that's more than $5 million, the independent monitor has to get notice of. That's considered a material transaction. So has the independent monitor been notified of any movement of funds that exceed that $5 million materiality threshold where the independent monitor appointed by Justice Engoron in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case would get knowledge of that? It goes on to say KSIC and DJT Trust and Schwab have also entered into a pledged asset account control agreement whereby Schwab, as custodian of the account, has acknowledged KSIC's right to exercise control over the account within 2 business days of receiving notice from KSIC of KSIC's intent to activate the control. A lot of word salad right there. Why are you building in this 48-hour grace period? And then it's 2 days of KSIC's notice of intent. So from when KSIC gives an intent that it wants to take control of the Schwab account, then Schwab has 2 days to give control after that, in which point, what would be stopping Donald Trump from liquidating that account or from transferring the assets within that 2-day period of time to some other outside entity? And then it goes on to say KSIC also independently maintains sufficient assets to secure the bond. And then they go and try to explain why they have sufficient assets. As of December 31st, 2023, KSIC had $539,284,552 in assets and $138,441,671 in equity. A copy of the KSIC's financial statement dated December 31, 2023, as submitted in connection with the undertaking, is annexed hereto as Exhibit H. Well, if you have $138 million in equity, the underlying bond here, the surety you're posting, exceeds your equity. So you're saying that you have assets totaling 539, but you don't have cash at all in excess of $138 million, and you're pledging to post a surety for $175 million. So if you play this out, that means what? You would have to force the New York Attorney General's office, because you don't have sufficient capital to pay the $175 million. You would force the New York Attorney General's office, what? They now have to then foreclose on your other assets and other property and take your other property and go to seize your property versus the defendant in this case, Donald Trump's. No, you have to have adequate capital and adequate equity to be a surety in New York, precisely for the reason because if and when Donald Trump loses the appeal, which he's going to, the New York Attorney General or any person who's the plaintiff who wins should not have to chase the money. The whole concept, just so you know, of like, okay, surety, why are we posting a bond for appeal? The whole idea is in a civil case, when you're the prevailing party, you win, right? A jury or a judge awards you a judgment. And when you're awarded a judgment, you're supposed to get that money. That's the judgment. So a criminal defendant, a civil defendant, because we're talking about civil cases, a civil defendant, if they want to avail themselves of the privilege of staying the enforcement of that judgment, turning over the money to the plaintiff who just won, while they appeal, they have to post the bond so that when the plaintiff prevails on appeal, or if the plaintiff prevails on appeal, they're not chasing the money that they should be able to get the moment they won the trial. Appeals can take a year and a half, sometimes 2 years, or even more. So you want to make sure that money exists somewhere so that the plaintiff, the winner of the case, can get the money quickly, not have to go to some account pledge agreement with 2-day notice of intent from a surety company that doesn't even have them equity to even serve as a surety. So where is this all heading, you may want to ask, with this shady declaration, with this shady Schwab account? I believe there's going to be the hearing soon with Justice Engoron, and I think Justice Engoron's going to find that this company does not satisfy New York law. The fact that the equity is below the bond amount violates New York law precisely for the common sense reasons that I just explained to you, that the prevailing party in a case should not have to worry about collections from a surety. The surety is supposed to have sufficient assets and is supposed to have sufficient reserves to easily pay if they're going to serve as a valid surety. Now, Knight Specialty Insurance is going to say, well, we're not from New York, so we don't have to follow your New York laws. Well, that's ridiculous. And I don't think Justice Engoron is going to take that argument seriously. And I think you're going to have a lot of people who are going to have to testify at this hearing. And I think that there can be serious implications if there are false statements being made here, if money's being moved around improperly. And there seems to be so many red flags. And the biggest red flag, of course, is that you have the signature page relates to a different insurance company. It doesn't even relate to Knight Specialty. It relates to Chubb, Federal Insurance Company. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million together. Have a good day.
Enough! Send him to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.